In 2002, in a small city called Giresun on Turkey's Black Sea coast, a baby was born who would grow up to sign the biggest contract in Turkish sports history, $185 million. But Alperen Şengün's journey to NBA stardom is unlike anything you've ever heard. This isn't just another rags to riches story. This is about a kid who started playing basketball at 8 years old, in a country where soccer is king, who was discovered by pure chance at a youth festival, and who went from making $500 a month in Turkey's second division to becoming an NBA All-Star in just 7 years. But the most incredible part? He almost never made it. His hometown team went bankrupt. He got injured right before his biggest moment, and he had to overcome barriers that no American player could even imagine. This is a story of impossible dreams, family sacrifice, and what happens when pure talent meets unbreakable determination. Let me take you back to where it all started. Giresun, Turkey. Population 125,000. It's a city most Americans couldn't find on a map, famous for its hazelnuts, not its basketball players. When Alperen was born in 2002, the idea of a kid from Giresun making it to the NBA still felt like a fantasy. Only a handful of Turkish players had ever been drafted, and none had come from a small town like his. At 8 years old, while American kids were playing in organized leagues with professional coaches, Alperen was just discovering basketball. His parents weren't sports fanatics pushing him toward greatness. His dad wasn't a former player. There were no basketball camps, no AAU teams, no path to stardom. Just a tall kid who fell in love with a game that barely existed in his world. Here's what makes his story incredible. Alperen didn't just play basketball. He also tried swimming and gymnastics. But here's the thing about small Turkish cities. There wasn't enough time or resources for multiple sports. So at 10 years old, he made a choice that would change his life forever. Basketball was it. For 2 years, he played for Giresun University's youth team. No scouts were watching. No one was tracking his progress. He was just another tall kid playing a sport that most Turks didn't care about. And then, in 2014, something magical happened that sounds like it's straight out of a movie. Because sometimes your entire life can change in a single moment. Picture this. It's 2014, and there's a youth festival happening in Turkey. Hundreds of kids playing sports, having fun, nothing too serious. 12-year-old Alperen is there, probably just enjoying being a kid. But watching from the sidelines is Ahmet Gürgen, the head coach of Bandırma BK, a professional team looking for young talent. And this is where fate stepped in. Out of all those kids, out of all that chaos, Coach Gürgen's eyes landed on this lanky 12-year-old who moved differently than everyone else. Not faster, not stronger, just different, more fluid, more natural, like he understood something about basketball that couldn't be taught. 3 months later, in August 2014, Alperen Şengün joined Banvit's Youth Academy. At just 12 years old, while American kids his age were worried about middle school, Alperen was moving 300 miles away from his family to chase a dream that still felt impossible. But here's what breaks your heart. This wasn't some luxury basketball academy. This was a 12-year-old kid living away from his parents, making maybe $200 a month, grinding in Turkey's youth leagues while dreaming of something no one in his country had ever achieved. His family sacrificed everything, financially, emotionally, betting on a dream that had never come true for any Turkish player. And for 4 years, he developed in complete anonymity. No American scouts knew his name, no social media highlights. Just a kid, getting better every single day, carrying the hopes of his family and the impossible dream of maybe, just maybe, making it to the highest level of basketball in the world. And then, in 2018, everything changed. At 16 years old, Alperen signed his first real professional contract with Bandırma's senior team. But this wasn't some ceremonial signing. This kid was getting real minutes in real professional games against grown men who'd been playing basketball their entire adult lives. His first game, October 13th, 2018. 13 minutes, 2 points, 5 rebounds, 3 assists. Nothing spectacular, right? But here's what the box score doesn't tell you. A 16-year-old kid from Giresun was holding his own against professional athletes in a country where basketball was the fourth most popular sport. But then came the moment that changed everything. March 10th, 2019. Alperen dropped 22 points and 16 rebounds in a single game at 16 years old. Suddenly, people started paying attention. Not NBA scouts yet, but European teams, bigger Turkish clubs. This kid wasn't just tall and talented. He was special. The next season, 2019-20, he moved up to Bandırma's top team, playing in Turkey's Premier League and the Basketball Champions League, Europe's second biggest competition. We're talking about a 17-year-old competing against veterans with decades of experience. And then came his signature moment. 25 points, 13 rebounds against Basketball Nürnberg in the Champions League playoffs. A teenager dominating grown men on the European stage. But just when everything was perfect, disaster struck. Bandırma Basket, the team that discovered him, developed him, believed in him, went bankrupt, financially collapsed. The club that had been his home for 6 years simply disappeared. At 18 years old, right when he was breaking through, Alperen found himself without a team, without a home, wondering if his dream was over before it truly began.
But sometimes, when one door closes, a bigger one opens.
August 2020. Beşiktaş, one of Turkey's most famous sports clubs, offered Alperen a 3-year contract. This wasn't just any team. This was Turkish basketball royalty. But here's what makes it incredible. They were rebuilding with young players, and they made this 18-year-old kid their centerpiece. What happened next was pure magic. Alperen didn't just play well. He dominated from day one. 17 points, 6 rebounds in his first game. 21 points against Fenerbahce, Turkey's biggest club. 27 points against Galatasaray, their biggest rival. This wasn't a teenager learning to play with men anymore. This was a teenager teaching men how to play basketball. But the performance that changed everything happened on January 23, 2021. Against Galatasaray, Alperen recorded 8 blocks in a single game. 8. The most by any player in Turkey's top league since 2013. At 18 years old, he wasn't just competing, he was rewriting record books. By the end of the season, something unprecedented happened. Alperen Şengün, at 18 years and 265 days old, became the youngest player in Turkish basketball history to win the league MVP award. Not youngest foreign player, not youngest big man, the youngest player, period. And that's when America finally noticed. NBA scouts who had never heard of Giresun, Turkey, were suddenly watching tape of this kid, who was doing things they'd never seen from an 18-year-old. The same kid who 6 months earlier didn't have a team was now being projected as a potential NBA draft pick.
June 29th, 2021. NBA Draft Night. The moment that would change everything. Pick 16, first round, Alperen Şengün, selected by the Oklahoma City Thunder, but in the same breath, traded to the Houston Rockets. In one night, a kid from a Turkish town most Americans had never heard of became an NBA player with a guaranteed contract worth more than his entire hometown made in a year. But here's what makes his story even more incredible. He didn't just survive in the NBA, he thrived immediately. His first game, October 20th, 2021, 11 points, 6 rebounds, 3 steals. His first double-double came 3 weeks later. His first triple-double? January 12th, 2023, making him the youngest center in NBA history to achieve that milestone. The numbers tell an incredible story. By age 20, he became the youngest center ever to reach 1,000 points and 200 assists. By 21, he broke Nikola Jokic's record as the youngest center to reach 500 assists. And that 45-point game against San Antonio, that made him the highest-scoring Turkish player in NBA history, breaking a record held since 2004. But March 6, 2024 was the moment that announced Alperen as a true NBA superstar. 45 points, 16 rebounds, 5 steals against Victor Wembanyama and the San Antonio Spurs. This wasn't just a good game, this was a statement. A kid from Giresun, Turkey, outplaying the most hyped prospect since LeBron James. And then came the ultimate validation. February 2025, NBA All-Star selection. Only the second Turkish player ever chosen. 18 years after Mehmet Okur. From unknown to All-Star in less than 4 years.
But the most incredible part of Alperen's story isn't what he's accomplished, it's what he represents. October 21st, 2024. Alperen Şengün signed a 5-year, $185 million contract extension with the Houston Rockets. The biggest contract in Turkish sports history. More money than some countries' entire basketball budgets. But here's what that number really represents. Validation of an impossible dream. Think about this journey. From a 12-year-old at a youth festival to an $1,805 million NBA superstar in just 10 years. From a town of 125,000 people to the biggest basketball league in the world. From a country where basketball was an afterthought to becoming their greatest basketball export ever. But Alperen's impact goes beyond basketball. Since he joined the Rockets, Turkish viewership of NBA games has increased by 400%. Kids in Turkey are choosing basketball over soccer. The Houston Rockets are planning basketball camps in Turkey. He's not just playing basketball, he's building bridges between cultures, inspiring an entire generation of kids who now believe that impossible dreams can come true. And he's still just getting started. At 22 years old, he's already rewritten what's possible for international players. He's shown that talent, determination, and opportunity can overcome any barrier. Language, culture, geography, economics. When Alperen steps on that court in Houston, he's not just representing himself or even the Rockets. He's carrying the dreams of every kid in Turkey who's ever picked up a basketball. He's proof that your zip code doesn't determine your destiny, that hard work can overcome impossible odds, and that sometimes the most incredible journeys start in the most unexpected places.
And here's the crazy part. He's still just getting started. At 22, he's already accomplished more than most players do in entire careers. But when you watch him play, when you see that basketball IQ, that passing ability, that determination, you realize we're watching the beginning of something truly special. So here's my question for you. Do you think Alperen can become the best center in the NBA? Where do you rank him among young superstars like Wemby, Luka, and Tatum? And more importantly, what part of his journey inspired you the most? The 12-year-old leaving his family? The bankruptcy that almost ended everything? That first NBA All-Star selection? Drop your thoughts in the comments, because this story isn't just about basketball. It's about what happens when impossible dreams meet unbreakable determination. And if this journey gave you chills like it gave me, smash that subscribe button, because we're telling more incredible stories of athletes who proved that greatness has no borders. From Giresun to Houston, from unknown to all-star, from $200 to $185 million. This is why we love sports. Because sometimes, just sometimes, the impossible becomes inevitable.